My name is Dan Ray. Welcome to another episode of the BCRC show. I'm here today with Deklan Constanje, the manager of the economic development for the city of Prince George. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Dan.
So it's exciting to have you on the show. I just want to kick it off. Maybe you can tell us a bit about the economic outlook for Prince George and where things are at these days.
Absolutely. I wish I had a bit of a crystal ball to look into, but looking at where things are at and where we've sort of come in the last little while, things in Prince George are doing all right. They're doing well. We've got some a transition in the forest sector that's been a bit challenging recently. However, there's a lot of innovations in manufacturing and especially in the decarbonization of fuels and energy and the ongoing construction of LNG Canada and Coastal GasLink and a few other projects here in town as well as out on the coast. The north is doing well, the resource sector is doing well, and we're starting to see some growth in our population more than we have in the past. Our manufacturing, construction, and transportation sectors are showing some strength and growth, and so there's a lot of promising signs. Fortunately, we're sort of recovering and coming out almost fully from the pandemic and the lasting effects. We're still sort of seeing the trailing end, but happy to see the back of it mostly, and now it's sort of looking to the future as we sort of come out of the world being flipped on its head and new and innovative technologies and approaches to things and a lot of professional services being offered out of the north and people moving to the north, adding to our workforce and our expertise. There's a lot of positive things for the north and for Prince George. And ultimately for the resource sector. We supply out of the north, we supply the province's major projects. A good chunk of it, I think it's 60% or more, is coming out of the major projects inventory for the provinces up in the north here. So, there's a lot of positive things here, and we're seeing some innovations as well. So there's sort of a strong base and then some exciting new things on the horizon.
So you see that strong base and a lot of economic growth. Do you see the resource sector driving that growth mostly or partially? Is that the main driver of growth in Prince George, do you think?
I think so, yeah. I mean, the North and BC, we're, and Canada really, we're a resource export economy. So whether that's lumber or energy or oil and gas, it's all... it comes from our raw resources, and then what we can do to those resources and add value to them before they go out. That's where we excel, and so yeah, absolutely, it creates like that base. So a mature sector like the forest sector, that's been a long-standing base for our economy. And some new, we'll say LNG, for example, in the past, decade, and more recently with the construction of those projects, are creating that growth and stability, while the more senior or mature sectors sort of transition into modernizing and right sizing, and then there's some more low carbon innovations in fuel and energy coming out of the woodwork now, that is creating that sort of the potential for that future growth and expansion too.
Yeah, you mentioned forestry there, and I know there's been some major announcements lately of shutdowns. Yeah. The pulp mill in Prince George here, and there's several sawmills and other parts of the province. Do you see that those closures getting balanced out by growth in other sectors, mining, oil and gas, LNG?
That's the hope. We'll have to see. But fortunately, the silver lining to this all is, most sectors are limited by growth, in some for regulatory and monetary, but a good chunk of it comes from available workforce. A business needs the people to fill the positions it has to create more jobs, and with the closure and the release of a chunk of the workforce from PG Pulp, for example, that's a number of people with skills and a work ethic that are now available for other local employers. And I know that local businesses and major employers here are trying to absorb that workforce as much as they possibly can, and they're taking advantage of that. So it's a silver lining. There's job losses are always are always tough on a community, and especially on the families affected.
Of course.
However, with the growth and these upcoming sectors, yes, hopefully it offsets the negatives by creating new jobs that these people can transition into, and with the support of other programs, including our own, these people can get the training if necessary to get into new jobs, and the employers can have access to funding or supports that get them the tools and the people and all these sorts of things that they need to absorb these people and grow.
You said your program, does city have a program as well for helping retrain workers?
We don't specifically retrain
Okay.
workers, but we work with the available programs. So there's, for example, through the province, there's this thing called the Community Workforce Response Grant. And so that's a funding program only community that can apply for, that gets us funding to go towards a training institution that therefore offers a program at no cost to the people that can enter into it and get skills or certifications or training that are necessary to fill a job workforce gap in the community.
And is there a website that workers can go to find this information?
That sort of program will pop up. However, Work BC, so our local Work BC office, is a great resource for people looking for positions. They're sort of the know-all, do-all sort of program in town. Anything that we would do with skills training would be linked in with them, and there are other programs, one for some for employers and some for individuals, some for employees. They can reach out to Work BC, and Work BC will sort of connect them with the appropriate resources.
Okay, great. Because that comes to my next point. We were talking clean tech and major projects. I know Tidewater has renewable diesel coming online. There's the RBO's bio crude, and then we have Hydro with, I believe they're claiming it to be the largest hydrogen fueling station in the world coming online, all in Prince George. Can you maybe speak to some of those projects and some of what they're about?
Yeah, I mean, I think the most tangible project is the Tidewater Renewables, the renewable diesel project. They're in construction. I think they're wrapping it up. They're on the sort of past their peak construction period, and so they're hopefully bringing it home soon. And they're already, hiring and searching. So we support them with our Move Up Prince George workforce attraction program, where we advertise Prince George to a workforce that's most likely to move here and work here and stay here and improve the community, and also feed into our local employers. And then we've got RBOS, which is RBOS and Hydra. Hydra just moved past a significant milestone in their permitting process. So the city as a whole, we've been working with them to move them through their processes. And hydrogen is a very exciting thing for the community, and so there's compliance and things like that are coming in with that industry, and so we're more here to learn for that sort of thing, and we'll be staying in touch with Hydra and other sort of pioneers in that sector to stay close with them. We also stay close with RBOS and the work that they're doing there, so that when it comes time to either skills training that they need or a workforce or any sort of navigating through bureaucracy or advocacy that they need for that's in benefit for the community, my division and the city would listen and support them through what's good for the community.
I know all these, and it's been brought up to me before in the past, renewable energy projects or green energy projects. Is the city doing something to drive this, or is this just organically happening the way industry you think is going, or a bit of both?
I think it's a bit of both. I can't take credit. I would love to. I know that the city in past years did run a clean tech cluster project where we collected and did an analysis of the existing businesses in Prince George that supported sort of a move to clean technology, things that would lower emissions, GHGs, things like that. and we promoted Prince George on the global scale for that. And perhaps that may be a result of it. Prince George also has goals to reduce emissions by a certain date, and we're doing things like our district energy system, where we are heating a number of buildings in the downtown, including their water heating. So that's reducing GHGs, and so we're putting it out there ourselves and backing it up, and then with access to land, power, and water, these projects I think are naturally coming here. Speaking to the resource availability in BC and the north specifically, Prince George is sort of that hub community with the workforce and the technology and the professionals that can support something like that, without the getting gummed up in process and fighting for land in the south that comes with that whole noise.
That's very true. And that comes to the big announcements recently. Artemis Gold got its permitting for the Blackwater project. We just heard an announcement Cedar LNG's moved past a major milestone in their permitting process. Do you see these as positive impacts for Prince George as well? I know they're not directly in the city, but regionally important.
Oh yeah, huge. Artemis is a really interesting company. They're majority BC owned, I believe, and just their approach to business is really exciting. And they're very much there's a portion of their staff actually came from the economic development division from the city, and so they already have sort of in their fiber to thinking of local benefits for the local employers and businesses to get contract opportunities and those sorts of things, and also their residents. They're keeping in mind the environment and the community and the businesses and people involved, and so that's huge. And with Prince George being close to Artemis Gold and their project is the service and supply companies that exist here, the professional services, your engineers, your environmental professionals, those are all hop, skip, and jump away from their project. So mobilizing people into supporting that project is a no-brainer. And then Cedar LNG, that's another exciting project. A lot of our businesses here in Prince George have benefited from opportunities that came from either Coastal GasLink or Canada LNG in Kitimat. Cedar LNG is also in Kitimat, so I see a parallel there. And I think it's also a really exciting thing for the north and for our communities. There's a large portion of Indigenous communities and population in the north, and to see that sort of ownership and guidance from the local nations to support a project like that. They're making sure that it's being done right, but it's also they're making sure it's happening and that it's supporting the local communities, the Haisla Nation and their members, as well as just the North in general. I think it's very exciting.
That is very exciting. And then there's other projects in the works. Are you aware of any other projects that I've maybe missed or that are coming online, or can you talk about them even if they're not public?
Well, we get approached all the time. There's all sorts of exciting things. They're not real until they are. But yeah, I see the use of our clean energy grid and our land and our water, and moving towards cleaner projects and clean energy and things like that. Those are sort of the proponents that are reaching out to us and that we're seeing a lot of movement in. That's very exciting. So I hope to be speaking more concretely in the future about these sorts of projects, but there's nothing I can really speak on right now.
Okay, fair enough. But there are some coming. We can be excited about potential
Knock
announcements
on wood,
in the future.
yes. Yeah.
Right on. So if there are proponents listening that want to develop a project in Prince George or the region, what's your advice? Do they come to your office to get direction? Is there websites they can visit? What's your advice to proponents?
Yeah, I mean,
Prince George.
As a local resource, our website, princegeorge.ca, leads you through to our economic development division, and we can act as sort of a concierge or liaison to, if the project is happening in city boundaries. There's lots of pieces that go into a project, whether it's regulatory, business casing, networks, community, the social, and engaging with First Nations and engaging with business agencies and Work BC and that sort of thing of knowing what the demand and available supports are for the workforce. All those sorts of things go into the multifaceted sort of role and a proponent that they need help in sort of being guided, especially if they're international or not from the province. They're going to need to navigate a whole bunch of stuff. So we're there as a resource. And then, sometimes they come through our investment network. So the trade and investment offices for BC, they have a link into us, as well as Invest in Canada, they have a link into us. And so we're well connected locally, regionally, nationally. So if they reach out to us, if they've reached out to a national partner or a provincial partner, likelihood is that we know. But if they haven't, they can come straight to us and we can connect them back through that network as well for the supports that they'll need at the provincial and federal levels as well.
That's awesome. It's great to have that resource available to help to develop the projects in Prince George in the north. So
yeah. Well, Canada, BC, and Prince George are open for business, and so we want to make sure that we lower and remove as many barriers and create as many opportunities here as possible. And that's it all goes into it. It's a team effort.
That's awesome. Well, it's been great having you on. Thank you so much for your time. I know you're a busy guy, and it's great to have you here. I just want to give a huge thank you to Studio 2880 for allowing us to use the studio. It's an amazing facility, great equipment here, so a big shout out to them. And if you guys haven't yet, go to our website, thebcrc.ca. Check out our raffle. We're raffling off a bike right now. Tickets are $20. You can buy them online. Or come to any of the BCRC directors to get tickets. And that's a great opportunity. Draws April 15th, so please buy your tickets and support the BCRC. Thank you very much for listening, and it's been a pleasure.
My pleasure as well, as always. Thanks, Dan.